It was just supposed to be another day of adventure, cruising through the woods on a quad bike heading to a local swimming spot. But what began as a typical outing quickly spiraled into a nightmare that none of them could explain. Jack and his friends had no idea what waited for them in the forest would haunt them for years to come. Hello, I'm Erudite and welcome to Moonskull. If you're looking for tales of horror, the paranormal, sci-fi, and the unexplained, then you are in the right place. I know you 5,000 wonderful fear addicts, as well as the 30% of you closet horror buffs who have still not subscribed yet, are eager to get into the story I just mentioned. So, let's dive into Jack's chilling experience. It was a warm summer afternoon in 2005, when Jack, along with his two friends Chris and Sexton, decided to go for a ride. Chris, the rich kid, had a quad bike that the three of them often used to explore the wild brushland near his rural home. The trek to the quarry, a popular swimming spot for local teens, was too far to walk, but on the quad, the journey was a breeze. Jack was eager to show off to his friends, teasing them as they sped through the country roads leading to the forest that surrounded the area. The forest, dense with tall pines, was known for its eerie atmosphere. It wasn't just any forest, it had its own strange history. Stories passed down by older kids painted it as a place filled with shadows, whispers, and things that were best left unspoken. Jack wasn't one to believe in such superstitions, but something about that place always left him with an unsettling feeling. The trees loomed over the path like silent sentinels, casting long shadows even in the daytime. As they entered, the temperature seemed to drop, the light dimming beneath the thick canopy. The boys didn't care about the stories. They were too busy joking around, showing off, and trying to scare each other. They laughed and yelled to the trees, daring whatever might be out there to come after them. They were invincible in their teenage minds. But the forest had a way of silencing that bravado. The day at the quarry was everything they expected. Swimming, jumping off cliffs, and fooling around without a care in the world. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, they knew it was time to head back. As they made their way through the forest again, something changed. Chris, who usually was the one in control, asked Jack to drive the quad back, something that wasn't unusual. Jack, feeling the rush of the wind, pressed the throttle and sped down the dirt path. The trees seemed to close in on them, the shadows stretching long as the last light of the day faded away. Suddenly, Jack felt it, a feeling of being watched, a pressure in the air that made his skin crawl. Without warning, there was a loud thud, a strange impact that made the quad jerk violently. A chunk of the oversized mud tire had been torn out, as if some unseen force had just ripped it out. Jack swerved, trying to regain control, but the path ahead was narrow, and a sharp turn loomed. As they rounded the corner, a figure appeared in the distance. A man, woman, and a child, sitting in the dirt, waving them down. They were on mountain bikes, their faces pale and anxious. Now, the man had clearly injured his ankle, and Chris immediately jumped off to help. Jack and Sexton stayed behind with the child. As they waited, the stillness of the forest began to press down on them, and Jack's mind wandered. The forest, always so full of life, now felt empty. The sound of distant barking echoed in the trees, but it was far away, and Jack didn't think much of it at the time. But then he heard something else. Voices. Soft at first, whispers coming from deeper within the woods. He brushed it off, thinking it was just the wind or perhaps people on the property nearby. But as the whispers grew louder and closer, Jack's unease intensified. He turned to Sexton, asking if he'd heard it too. Sexton, always the nervous one, looked around, his face pale. The man and the child didn't seem to hear anything, but Jack did. The whispers were getting closer and closer and more clear, and they weren't in any language that he recognized. It sounded like chanting, guttural and foreign, echoing all around them. As Jack turned the quad around, shining the light into the darkness, the whispers stopped. Everything went eerily quiet, the only sound being the rustling of the leaves and the wind. But then, just as Jack thought the worst was over, the whispers returned, louder, clearer, and all around them. Panic set in, It wasn't just the voices anymore. There was something in the trees, something watching them. Suddenly, the air grew thick, the tension palpable. Sexton was frozen, staring wide-eyed, unable to speak. Jack tried to calm him, but the fear was too much. Then, just as quickly as it had started, it stopped. The forest fell silent again, and the boys' breaths were the only sound. When Chris returned with the woman, they left the area as quickly as possible. But as they passed through the trees, Jack looked back, and in the shadows he saw something. A figure, tall and dark, standing just beyond the tree line. It was the shape of a man, but it was too tall, too unnatural. He locked eyes with it for a moment, then turned away, not daring to say a word. The rest of the night passed in a blur. The experience, though, it haunted Jack. They left the forest, and Jack never returned to those woods, and even to this day, he still wonders what he saw, what he heard, and why it all happened that night. And there you have it, folks, a chilling tale of a seemingly normal trip to the woods that turned into a terrifying encounter with something otherworldly. What do you think Jack and his friends experienced in that forest? Was it just a figment of their imagination, or did something darker lurk in those trees? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want more of this kind of wild, paranormal, real-life madness, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe, because we got plenty more where that came from. I'm Arudai, and until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, sometimes the scariest things are the ones you can't explain.